So hello and welcome to the Dharma.life podcast. I'm your host, Aloise.life Middleton, and today I have with me a young lady, that sounds very professional, doesn't it? A lady who has come on my radar recently and who I've decided to work with, who basically has followed her breadcrumbs. She is doing her Dharma and she's created an incredible business where she's helping women with not only their weight loss, with their mindset. So Alice Young is a women's weight loss and mindset coach. So welcome to the Dharma.life podcast.
Hi, thanks so much for having me, Aloise. I'm happy to be here.
No, I'm excited to hear your story, Alice, because you are an entrepreneur through and through by the sounds of things. So can you take us back to how you, well, what did you do? What did you do at university, and how did you get into what you're doing now?
Yes, so I studied psychology at university, and then a few years later, I pursued my sport and exercise psychology masters. But outside of academia, before I even had my first job in my teens, I knew that I didn't want to work for somebody else. I always knew that I wanted my own thing. I wanted to work for myself. I wanted to build my own business. So, after uni, when I got my first job, and then, my following jobs are, throughout the years after that, it was never something I enjoyed. And I always saw it as a means to an end. And throughout my life of being employed by, other people, I was always working to try and create a business, build a business. So I've had a few different business ideas over the years and business ventures over the years. And eventually, I guess that journey kind of led me to doing my sport and exercise psychology masters. So the initial goal there was to become a sports psychologist and work with athletes. So the goal was never to build and create AOI coaching and do what I do now. I kind of just fell into it accidentally. It was a very happy accident because I love it. But I guess doing the sport and exercise psychology masters and then beginning to pursue the accreditation to become a sports psychologist, what I realized was the way that I had to work to achieve that accreditation and become qualified, it didn't align with me. It didn't align with my approach and my values and how I wanted to work with my clients. So I ended up quitting the accreditation early and going all in on my business venture, AOI coaching. That was 5 years ago now. And yeah, 5 and a bit years later, here we are. I'm running a successful women's weight loss and mindset coaching business, and I absolutely love what I do.
Oh, fantastic. And do you mind if I take you back a little bit? Like, what jobs have you done to get before you've kind of, because ALY coaching is what I would call your 5D purpose, but you obviously have had jobs along the way. What type of jobs have you done to sort of before you got to your purpose?
Yeah, so I mainly worked in healthcare. So I mostly worked in the NHS. I actually started in if you know how the banding works in the NHS, a band 3 admin job, which is, pretty much at the bottom. And I kind of worked my way up slowly to a band 5, and I ended up falling into research, healthcare research, which I did enjoy. And if I didn't have this vision of wanting to work for myself and build my own business, I'd probably still be working in the NHS in research and probably quite enjoying it. Does that answer the question? I kind of lost my line of thought.
I find it really interesting to know what people have done before they kind of, because like what you've just described is something we teach, which we talk about having a vision for your life. Most people get in a, most people don't have a vision for their life. Wonder why they don't create what they want to create. Don't get in a taxi and say, like, I'm using analogies now, which I think just does with me, which I think is really, really powerful. But you don't get in a taxi and say, I don't know where I'm going, because that would be ridiculous. But most people do that with their lives. And what you just described is that you had a vision, even though you're working in the NHS in a job that you didn't mind it wasn't great, but you had a vision for where you're going. And so that vision obviously has been driving you, and now you're creating it.
Yeah, yeah, that really resonates. That really resonates. But I did enjoy working in the NHS for the most part. There were parts of it that I really didn't enjoy. You know, I went through a phase in my most recent role where it was very managery, and I guess that because I hated it, I hated that environment. That really, really fueled me to push myself and really push with the business to be able to get out of that job. So I guess being in that most recent role and really not enjoying it to the point where, I was hating it, I think it was good because it gave me the extra boost I needed to have the confidence to eventually leave that role, which was really scary because I'd just taken on a mortgage as well. Yeah.
Talk us through the transition, because that's the bit that people find hardest. Like, often people will have an idea what they want to do in life,
Mm,
and they're working in their sort of 3D job, and they're starting to
mhm,
business on the side. But what
mhm,
talk us through how you made the jump, like, because that's quite scary, that jump from going from security,
mhm.
paycheck coming in on a regular basis, to then, okay, I'm going to take the leap and do this full time.
Yeah, it is really scary, especially just having taken on a mortgage as well, a big responsibility. I guess it's not as scary as it is for some women who have children and, even, bigger responsibilities. So I guess I was quite lucky in that sense. But I guess the thing that for me that did it is I had a really difficult encounter with one of my managers. She did something that really upset me, and I was on the phone to my friend and I was in tears over it. And she said to me, why don't you just leave? You said you were going to leave 3 months ago when you hit this revenue milestone in your business and you didn't. Now's the time to leave. There's no reason why you shouldn't. And I think just having at least one person in your corner who's fully backing you, and that was my friend Holly at that time in my life, giving you who knows it's not a stupid decision to do, because you don't want somebody who's going to push you into making a decision that could put you in a real big risk, but who wants the best for you basically. And we sat on the phone together. I emailed my resignation over, and that was that. And I think I wouldn't have done that, or not so quickly, if I didn't have her backing me and her support. So just having at least one person or a couple of people who have your back and are going to help you through it, I think for me was really, really helpful.
So you, by the sounds of things, you were doing both, where you had your job, but you're also doing the coaching on the side, and then you'd set yourself a revenue target to hit
Hmm.
that meant that you could survive and you could basically go forward from that point.
Yeah, yeah, so that's right. So at one point I was working full time. I was doing my sports psychologist accreditation and I was running the business. So there was one point where I was doing all three. After I ditched the accreditation, I was working full time and running the business. But those few months in the lead up to leaving my full time role and when I was running the business, I was basically working two full time jobs because the business was bringing in, it was matching my revenue from my full time work, and that's the revenue milestone I wanted to hit before I left work and went all in with the business.
That's a great way to do it. That's a really great way to do it.
Hmm.
You've got
Hmm.
that, you've got that safety and that security.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're kind of fulfilling what you want to fulfill.
yeah.
And talk to me, because you said, was it COVID that the business started in?
Yeah, so I started it in that second lockdown, so the November of 2020. And I think I mentioned initially I wanted to do a bit of in-person PT-ing, just to earn a bit of extra money alongside doing my sports psychologist accreditation. As soon as I got my PT qualification, we went into that second COVID, so that wasn't going to happen. So I thought the next, best thing was starting an online coaching business. So it really was an accident. Like I said, it was never the plan, and it was a complete pivot to what I was actually planning on doing. Um, So yeah, it was never something that I'd always planned to do, and it was always the vision. I had my vision. I wanted to work for myself, build a business, but what I actually wanted to do, I had no idea. And I think that just came through trial and
Yeah.
error, to be honest.
That's really powerful. The fact that you were saying to yourself, I want to work for myself. I want to have my own thing. I want to have freedom. I want to have flexibility. So you kind of said to the universe, these are my parameters. This is what I want,
Hmm. Hmm.
the idea. And then you listen.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I truly believe that that's available for everybody. Like, I
Yeah.
think if we have the courage to sort of lean
Hmm.
to what we're passionate about and do what we love,
Hmm.
the rest comes. Like, that's what I do, Alice. I do coaching for women who wanting to
Hmm.
move from their 3D jobs
Hmm.
into the 5D purpose.
Hmm. Hmm.
You know, what you're saying resonates with me so much, because
Yeah.
it's you've had the courage to really take the action. And obviously most people want to know what everything's going to look like before they take the action, but it doesn't work like that. You have to
No.
take the action and move forward, and it will unveil itself to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. I know this sounds so cliche, but it's the same. I think it's the same with, weight loss and any health and fitness goals as well. If you have that fire there and you know where you want to be and the want is strong enough, you will find a way to do it. And I know for me, I was so unhappy working. I always knew it wasn't the path for me in life. So you do just find a way, no matter how long it takes. You keep going, you keep going, you keep going until you've achieved, what you want to achieve.
Yeah, and I think we have to follow our excitement. This is the other thing,
Hmm.
like you were saying, that you weren't happy in your job.
Mm,
Why should we be and do something for 80% of our time when we're working,
hmm.
that we're not happy with, and stay in that role, when actually we want to do something that we're happy with and gives us
Yeah,
freedom, gives us flexibility,
yeah,
and
yeah.
makes us happy. So
Mm,
we have another thing that we say in Dharma Life Academy, which is follow your highest excitement to the best of your
mm,
ability, with no expectation on the outcome.
mm.
And then when you're following that excitement, it's basically kind of showing you which direction to go in life,
Yes, yeah,
basically. So
yeah.
wonderful. So talk me through ALY coaching and why it's different.
Yeah, so the reason I think it's different is because I obviously have that background in psychology, and when I was creating AOI coaching, I really wanted to bring the psychology element in, where I'd done my undergrad in psychology. I'd not long completed my sport and exercise psychology masters. At the time, I was doing my sports psychology accreditation, so it was really important for me to bring the psychology element in. And I think when creating it, I was very much thinking back to my own struggles with fat loss, with relationship with food, with body image, and who do I want to help, who I feel I'm best placed to help through my own knowledge and experience, and academically, and also personally as well. So in terms of the types of women we help, it's mainly women who have tried different diets, different programs. A lot of them feel like they've tried. Yeah, that's why you're with us. A lot of them, yeah, a lot of them do feel like they've maybe tried every single diet under the sun, and they just keep falling off and not being able to stick to it. And a lot of these women blame themselves, and I'm very much of the opinion it's not your fault. It's not your fault. It is your problem, but it's not your fault that you find yourself in this situation, because there's so many different elements to it, and so many external factors that have led you to have these struggles with food and weight loss. But it's good to kind of own the fact that it is your problem, because that's how you take the first step to kind of getting the help you need to solve it. So we help women who feel out of control around food, binge eating, overeating, emotional eating, feel like they don't have enough motivation or willpower, that that's a really big one. And then what we were talking about earlier about beating themselves up, that's a really, really, common problem with the women we help. And I think that's another reason why it's so important to remember it's not your fault. It's not your fault that you found yourself in this situation. And if you can learn to talk to yourself how you would talk to, a friend, or, your daughter if you have children, your son if you have children, that's a really big turning point for so many women, because being able to show yourself that kindness and compassion is, really key to making these longer term changes and getting to that point you want to be, in yourself, with your health, how you feel in yourself, with the weight loss side of things as well.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that's really struck me, is it's very much a long-term approach, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
kind of used to losing weight in a short-term fix.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whereas this is a much more long-term approach, and you're actually changing your mindset
Yeah.
rather than just helping somebody lose weight.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even that's a mindset shift, learning to be okay with the process being longer. I mean, of course, we have clients come in and they do lose weight quickly, but it's not because it's a quick fix approach. Everyone loses weight at a different rate, and regardless of whether you're losing quickly, you're losing slowly, whatever your definition of slow is, because everyone's definition is different. We work on the mindset, so the change will actually stick, and we get you off of this, cycle of, starting, stopping, starting, stopping.
Yeah.
Ultimately, we just want to get, the women we coach to a point where they're living a balanced, intuitive, lifestyle, and self-compassionate, way of living, a balanced, intuitive and self-compassionate way of living. I think that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, fantastic. And I think let's talk a little bit about Christmas. This podcast will go out just before Christmas. So
Okay.
It's always a difficult period, isn't it, for women
Yes.
in weight loss? And I think I've listened to some of the webinars that you've done, and I think it's really interesting how you kind of approach it, because obviously there's that flexibility that we have, we are going to indulge, but we don't want to fall off the wagon completely. And I think there's this whole I'll start again. And I had a weekend away, and I thought, I'll just let it slide. And then I listened to some of the webinars. I thought, no, we'll get back on it. So basically gone back to my soup in the evenings, and gone back to, we had friends round, and we had crudités and nibbles. So rather than just having loads of nibbles, we had loads of crudités. So I think that talk us through what you would advise for women over Christmas.
Yeah, Christmas is a tough one. I think can be quite triggering for a lot of women as well, for a number of different reasons. The thing with Christmas is it's difficult because you want to allow yourself flexibility, but not to the point where you've written off the whole of December, so to speak, because when you do that, you end up going into January not feeling so good in yourself. And I think for a lot of people, finding that flexibility, that middle ground, is really difficult. And there's a reason why so many people struggle with that all or nothing mindset, that all in or all out mentality, because it's easier to swing to the extremes. It's easier to, write off the whole of December and then go all in on all in January, than it is to find that flexibility and to find that middle ground with it. So I guess my biggest advice for finding that middle ground and finding that flexibility, so you can enjoy Christmas but not feel like you've gone 10 steps backwards or undone everything. I'm using this it's not my favorite terminology, but it's the best way to kind of get across what I mean, because everyone knows what that means. Is figure out what are your high priority days over Christmas. These are your days where you're going to allow yourself as much flexibility as you want. So for a lot of people, it's going to be Christmas Day, it's going to be Boxing Day, it might be New Year's Eve. And then you want to balance those out with more controlled days and more structured days. So yes, you might have the Christmas chocolate and the leftovers on your more structured days, but you might follow, a main meal structure and just have a snack or two on those days. So you're maintaining that balance, but in a way in a way that you're still allowing yourself to overindulge if you would like to on the most important days. And that's in it, there's a bit more to it than that, but you know, at a very basic level, that's how I would approach it.
Okay, so basically not throwing the baby out with the bathwater and just thinking, right, I've had 2 bad days, I'm just going to carry on eating for the rest of December until I get to January, basically.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I wouldn't even call them bad days. You know, if you have a day where you've eaten a bit more than planned, that's okay. You know, it happens, you're human, rather than, like you say, write off the whole rest of December, just get back to it the next day. And that it's easier said than done, but you know, you have to give yourself the reminder, this is what's best for me, and it doesn't make sense to, you know, write off the rest of December just because I had one unplanned moment.
And do you think that if, because obviously one of the other things that really comes across in what I've seen so far is a kindness approach to yourself, you know,
Hmm.
kind to yourself. Look, obviously, most of us are not kind to ourselves, you know,
Hmm.
we're really unkind, you know, we wouldn't
Hmm.
treat somebody else the way we treat
Yeah.
ourselves.
Yeah.
Um, do you think that has an impact on weight loss?
Not a direct impact, but definitely an indirect impact, because if you're well, think about to, you know, think back to your years of dieting, not just you, anyone who's listening. Um, how have you spoken to yourself throughout those dieting periods?
Oh, horrendous.
Horrendous, yeah, and I'm sure everybody else listening to this has, and has that worked for you?
No.
No.
In a word, no.
No, exactly. And now, Eloise, you're obviously embracing the more self-compassionate approach. And how do you feel that compares to beating yourself up and punishing yourself?
Oh, it's much better than beating myself up and punishing myself. Yeah,
Mm.
but it's alien at the moment.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
I'm quite kind of, it's kind of like, oh, okay, it's just taking it all in your stride rather than
Hmm.
it being catastrophizing or, you know, kind of going off the deep end about something. Whereas
Hmm.
actually, it's just taking it in your stride and being flexible.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So when, you know, let's take the classic example. You've eaten something bad or off plan, and then you're berating yourself about it. You know, you're calling yourself a failure. You're saying to yourself, you're not good enough to do this. All that leads to is, you know, the rest of the week or the rest of the month, you go into a bit of a spiral with it, and then you get to a point where you feel rubbish in yourself again, and you start the next new thing. Then you have an off-plan moment, you beat yourself up again, and it's just this perpetual cycle. Whereas, you know, exactly. Whereas if you can have these off-plan moments, you know, everyone has them, I have them, and just understand it's life, you're not perfect, and actually we want these off-plan moments because they're enjoyable. You know, people want to enjoy food. Food is there to be enjoyed. Let's figure out a way to build it in. And, you know, if we have those moments where things don't quite go to plan, it's okay. You know, I'm not a robot. I can't program myself to be perfect all the time. I'm just going to focus on the next best thing I can do for myself.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. And you said the business has been going 5 years now.
Mhm.
How many women have you helped over that course of those 5 years? Because it's quite a lot.
Yeah, we've helped about 500 over the 5 years, coming up to 500, yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And what's the vision moving forward?
The vision moving forward is to continue growing it. So at the moment, it's me, Jess, and Holly who are coaches in the business. And I really just want to continue growing it so we can help more women. Obviously, working by myself, I can only help so many women. But obviously, Holly and Jess are both trained up on, fully trained on the ALY processes, and you know how we do things, and I'd just love to, yeah, continue growing it, bring on, you know, hire more coaches into the business and have them deliver our coaching process to more women, just so we can help change the lives of more women over the years.
Yeah, and some of the stories that I've seen are really impressive. You know, you see the pictures of the women online, and obviously they look looking larger when they join you, but then, you know, kind of that weight loss is steady and consistent, basically.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think the steady, consistent weight loss is the most important thing, not having these big kind of up and down swings. But it's like what we were saying before, that is a mindset shift, getting comfortable with the weight loss being, not being as quick as you're used to, but actually recognizing that you're making so much progress in other areas, how you talk to yourself, how you view food, how you feel in yourself, feeling fitter, feeling stronger, feeling healthier. And actually all of these changes are what's really going to make it a change that sticks for life.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And what would you say to people listening who have got a business idea, who really want to kind of start but don't really know where to start, if you see what I mean? They kind of got a business idea, they've got a vision of what they want to be doing, but they're a bit scared to.
If you're scared to take the leap, well, the first thing is just start. Just starting isn't it, you can take small steps to starting. You can sit down, figure out what exactly you want the business to be. Like, what is your passion? What are you good at? What do you feel your purpose is? What would you love to be doing business wise? And you don't have to, if you're working at the moment, you don't have to go, all in and leave your job straight away. You can do what I did and build the business up on the side. So you can ease yourself into it. It doesn't have to be this, big thing where you have to take big steps straight away. I think just like, our approach with weight loss, taking small steps is really, really the key here for a lot of people.
Fantastic. Okay, no, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I think what you're saying kind of really fits in with what we teach in the Dharma Life Academy, which is, whatever your unique gifts and talents are, and whatever you're passionate about, in there somewhere is your Dharma, is your purpose. And also when you do the things that you love, you can basically keep doing them because you don't, it's not a chore for you because you really love what you're doing. So, it's it's not rocket science, but it does work. It does work.
Yes.
When you do what you love, it really makes a difference.
It really does. It really does. Because you'll naturally work harder at it as well. You'll naturally work harder at it if you actually love it and you enjoy it. It will keep that fire fueled in you to keep pushing with it.
Yeah, if you think about your NHS days and you think about now, the difference is just, I would say, exponential, I would have thought.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Wonderful. So how can people find you?
Yeah, so they can find me over on Instagram. I'm Alice L. Young on Instagram. I'm also on YouTube. I can't remember what my YouTube username is, but I can send you the link to put
Yeah,
in
send
the
me the link. I'll put it in
description.
the show notes. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, and so you're taking on women now between, is it after Christmas now or before Christmas or?
Yeah, so we're enrolling women to start in January. So if you are interested in grabbing one of our January slots, then you can message me on Instagram or you can fill out the application form, which is linked in my bio on Instagram. And I'm really friendly to talk to. We just have a quick, no pressure, friendly chat on Instagram about your goals and what you'd love to achieve in 2026. And if we feel like we're going to be a good fit to work together, I can send you, information on how the coaching works and the next steps. But yeah, we are enrolling for January start dates at the moment.
Brilliant, brilliant. Oh, well, thank you so much for coming and sharing your story on the Dharma Life podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Aloise. I've really enjoyed being here and talking through everything.
No, not at all. Well, it's really, you're a really great example of someone who's doing their Dharma, well, maybe I love the fact that you had this vision, you wanted to work for yourself, you didn't know how or what, but you just went for it and then it came in. So I think that's really good advice for people listening. If you don't know what you want to do, just set the intention. You want to work for yourself. What are the things that you really want out of life? You want freedom, you want flexibility, you want to work for yourself, and then ask the universe for that idea of what you can do to fulfill that.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think the other thing as well, you have to be okay with it taking longer than you might want it to, and be patient with it, because these things do take time. And if you want to achieve, it's like with any goal in life, isn't it? Be okay with it, taking longer than you might like it to, but know that the reward is going to be so, like, you can't even imagine how good the reward is going to be once you get there.
Yeah, it's working for yourself and doing what you love is the biggest reward ever. Like we always talk about the emotional vibrational scale on this podcast. Basically, each emotion has a vibration. So in frustration and annoyance, you're much lower level vibration. Whereas if you're in joy and passion, you're in a very high vibrational state. So it impacts the rest of your life. You know, you really feel good in other areas of your life. You know, it's going to impact, you know, you're going to basically create this incredible life that you didn't know was possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
Oh, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate
Thanks, Aloise.
No problem. And we will see you next week with another incredible guest on the Dharma.life podcast. Thanks, Alice.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Dharma Life podcast. I do hope you enjoyed this episode. Please come over and say hello on my Instagram, our Facebook group, and also please let me know what you thought. So if you are listening, please take a screenshot of the podcast that you are listening to. Tag me on Instagram and I will reshare your post, and please let me know what it is that you got out of today's episode. Remember, when we do our Dharma, we are happier, healthier, we live longer, and we have a deep sense of unshakable inner peace.